Hi everyone. Let us go in depth of the civil services examination which is conducted by UPSC. So this particular examination recruits aspirants under All India Services and Group A Civil Services. Also, this exam is one of the most prestigious examination under the government of India and also happens to be one of the toughest exams in the world. But the beauty of it lies in what I'm going to tell ahead. So let us begin with decoding the procedure, the process, and the syllabus which involves the civil services examination. First, we will be talking about the selection process. The notification for CSE is released in the month of Jan or Feb each year. The preliminary exam, which is the first stage of the exam, is usually conducted in the month of May or June, followed by the Civil Services Mains examination conducted in the month of September or October that very year. Also, the last stage of the exam, which involves the personality test or the interview, is usually conducted in the month of March the following year of the notification release. Lastly, the results is produced in the month of May. So ideally you can see from the date the notification is released to the results of that, there is a gap of 1.5 years. What exactly is the eligibility criteria for a person to apply for this exam? So these are the categories. Firstly, we have the general category, and the degree that you should have is any bachelor degree from a recognized university. Also, those candidates aging from 21 to 30 years can attempt this exam, and we usually have 6 attempts until the age of 31. So this is also for the categories, that is OBC or SC/ST. So firstly, let us decode the preliminary examination pattern, which is also the first stage in the exam. So there are two papers which are mandatory. The first paper, which is conducted in the morning, that is the paper 1, and the following paper that is conducted in the noon, that is paper 2. So paper 1 is also called as general studies, and it is conducted in a 2 hours duration spanning 200 marks. Followed by the next is the general aptitude exam, also called as CSAT, having marks of total 200 and again under a duration of. So this particular exam is conducted annually, which means every year the notification gets released. And it comprises of two compulsory papers that I've told you earlier, paper 1 and paper 2 of 200 marks each. You should also remember, if you appear for the paper 1 and do not appear for the paper 2 and vice versa, you're not eligible for the next round. You are disqualified. As you can see, in paper 1 there are 100 questions and each question carries 2 marks, and the right answer for each question gives you a +2 and the wrong answer gives you a -0.67. So there is negative marking for every wrong answer you mark. Next you have the paper 2, where you have number of questions as 80 questions and each question carries 2.5 marks. So every right answer gives you a +2.5 and every wrong answer that you mark gives -0.83. Both the paper 1 and paper 2 are multiple choice questions and they are objective in nature. So there is a negative marking like I've mentioned earlier, and it is 1/3 of the marks that is assigned to that particular question. The cutoff is decided by the commission and it varies each year. So let us see and decode what are the contents that come under paper 1, under prelims. So you have the current affairs, you have history of India, you have geography, followed by polity and governance, economic and social development, and general issues on environment, ecology, biodiversity, and climate change, followed by general science. Let us decode what is in the preliminary exam paper 2. You should know that this paper, also called as the CSAT, is mandatory qualifying paper with a minimum qualifying marks fixed at 33%. So only when you get 33% in this particular paper, the other paper that you have written in the morning will get corrected. Otherwise, you're disqualified from the race and you have to attempt it next year all again. So the subjects that come under this particular aptitude paper is comprehension, interpersonal skills, logical reasoning and analytical ability, decision making and problem solving, general mental ability, and basic numeracy, data interpretation, etc. Now that we have decoded the first preliminary part, let us go ahead and see the mains examination part as to how it goes on. So who are those candidates who are eligible to write the next stage? They are the ones who clear the cutoff in the first prelims exam, also achieving a 33% minimum qualifying marks in the second paper, that is CSAT. So there are a total number of 9 subjective papers, and you should understand mains exam is descriptive in nature and it is not objective like MCQs. So what exactly does the main exam expect out of a student? It assesses the overall intellectual traits and the depth of understanding of a particular subject. So firstly, let us discuss the 9 papers that you are having. So you will have 2 qualifying papers. These is in the same nature as the CSAT. Only if you qualify these 2 papers with minimum marks is when the other 7 papers that you have written will get evaluated. If you do not qualify these papers, that means you are out of the race and you have to start all over again the next year once the notification is out. So there are 2 papers, paper A and paper B. So paper A consists of any of one Indian language that is mentioned in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution. That can be Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, etc. So that carries around 300 marks. Followed by paper B, we have English, which is a compulsory mandatory paper, again carrying 300 marks. So the marks that you get in these qualifying papers are not calculated when ranking is given out to students. And English is a mandatory paper. Next, we have this particular tabular column which spans the 7 other papers, and these marks that a student gets in these papers is counted for merit and the rank list is provided. So firstly, you have the paper 1, which talks about the essay paper. So essay has a very wide coverage ranging from education, science and tech, environment, etc. It carries 250 marks. Followed by paper 2, also called as the General Studies 1 or GS1. It consists of topics such as Indian heritage and culture, history and geography of the world and India. Also followed by society issues. That again carries 250 marks. Followed by paper 3, which is also called as General Studies 2 or GS2, consists of governance, constitution, polity, social justice and international relations. Next we have the paper 4 consisting of GS3, technology, economic development, biodiversity, environment, security and disaster management, comprising of 250 marks. Followed by paper 5, which is also called as General Studies 4, which is a very important paper having ethics, integrity and aptitude, spanning 250 marks again. Then we have paper 6 and paper 7, which involves the optional subject paper 1 and paper 2, totally spanning around 500 marks. So just these 7 written papers come to a grand total of 1750 marks. So once this marks is generated and calculated for an aspirant, there is something called as the personality test or the interview, and this particular interview is conducted by the UPSC officials and it spans for 275 marks. So when the final result is being given out, it is going to be totaling to around 2025 marks. So what are the list of optional subjects that is given for mains examination? There is a varied list of 26 subjects that a student can choose. A student is allowed to choose just one subject, spanning 500 marks. Lastly, the third procedure or the process for this particular exam involves personality test or interview, right? So once a person clears the mains examination, that is when he clears the cutoff out of 1750 marks, which is decided by the commission, is when he can appear for the personality test or interview, which is conducted by the officials of UPSC board. So they have to attend the interview, which is located at Dholpur House in New Delhi. And the basic objective of this interview is to judge the mental caliber of a candidate. Usually, the interview duration is for 30 to 60 minutes. And who are the members who comprise of this interview panel? You have retired judges, you have officials, chairperson of UPSC, subject matter expert, ex-vice chancellor of universities, etc. So what are some basic qualities which will be judged during the interview process? Have mental alertness, critical powers of assimilation, clear and logical exposition, balance of judgment, variety and depth of interest, ability for social cohesion and leadership, intellectual and moral integrity, followed by social traits and interest in current affairs of India and the world. So let us see some interview sample questions so you all will have a brief idea. The most common question that is usually asked is, why do you want to become a civil servant? Followed by, what are the problems faced by wheat cultivators or any majority crop that is grown in your particular state? Followed by, don't you think you can serve your country better by remaining a doctor and treating poor patients? Why do you want to take up this particular route of civil services? Another deep question for any aspirant going ahead with this exam. Why do you want to take up civil services? And what is the role that is played by these IAS and the IPS officers? So they play a very critical and a crucial role in managing the bureaucratic environment of both the union and the state governments. So what are the basic functions of an IAS officer? Policy formulation and monitoring its implementation. Then you have civil administration, followed by advices to the ministers. Now let us decode the different duties of an IPS officer. So he or she helps in maintaining public peace and order, crime prevention, investigation and detection, counter terrorism, tackle smuggling and drug trafficking, disaster management. So these officers that are recruited as IPS officers also head some of the most prestigious intelligence agencies of India, such as RAW, Intelligence Bureau, Central Bureau of Investigation, etc. Keep learning with First Online University.